Today we're going to talk about Gall's law, which essentially states that every complex system came from a previously fully functional, simpler system. So it's essentially just the idea, there's a really nice diagram that depicts the whole idea, but it's that a car didn't come from first a wheel and then a frame and then the engine and all of the other parts for it to work. The car first came from, say, a skateboard, and then the skateboard became a bike, and then a bike became a motorbike, then a motorbike became a car. Each one of those things that I named all worked and functionally worked. They are just improvements upon the previous. So a good example in practice where I need to start using this is with business and structuring a business and literally anything in it. So I guess what we could use is the example of a workout plan. Is instead of from scratch trying to create the perfect workout split with all of the exact exercises with the exact weight that you need to do in order to hit your goals. Instead, what you should do is start with one simple thing and then add from there. So it's just the idea that every single system comes from invariably from a simpler system that did work. And so a good workout plan or a great workout plan doesn't come from sitting there and making a perfect workout plan piece by piece. It comes from a very bad workout plan that you then improve upon over time. So where this could be beneficial for a lot of people is basically just the idea of you need to start whether it's perfect or not. Because a lot of people like me wait until everything is perfect to start. So if you want to start a business, you want to make sure that everything is very perfectly aligned. You have the perfect logo and you have the perfect business plan and everything's ready to go before you start. And that's the same idea as trying to create a car from scratch. What you should do is you should start with something simple. Start with a logo and a company name. Things that are not necessarily that important and can be changed and iterated over time to be better. So at its core, if you want to sell shoes and start a shoe company, first you need a shoe to sell and a company. So start a company. Name doesn't particularly matter because you can always change it later or start a new company and just change the name. And then the shoe at the start, instead of trying to make the perfect shoe before you sell it, sell a shoe and then figure out what, based on customer feedback, what you should improve upon it and then make the shoe better. And so it's basically just this idea that you should not wait until you have every single perfect piece to create the whole. You should create the whole even if it sucks and then improve the whole together as one piece. So I'll go back in case it makes more sense now to the premise is Gall's law is that every complex system invariably comes from a simpler system that worked. So a car came from a horse carriage, and a horse carriage came from a wheel. And so you take something such as a plow. So you hooked a plow to horses to plow fields back in, I don't know, the Middle Ages. I don't know much about history. And then from that, you then added a seat to that plow, which created transportation. And then from that, you started to advance, and eventually we have cars, and then the cars got better. But basically, the idea is that every single previous iteration worked, and the only great things come from previous iterations that did work, but were not as good as they should have been. So every working business once came from a business that was working, just not as well. And so in order to start a company like Nike, where you're selling shoes worldwide and it's like one of the top companies in the world, you just have to start with any company that sells some sort of shoes. You can change a company name later and you can improve upon the shoes over time. And this perfect shoe invariably comes from a less perfect shoe. You don't just straight come out of the bat and make a perfect shoe by doing all this research and then on your first try you just assemble all of these things that make a perfect system. Most people spend way more time than they should trying to make this perfect shoe on their first go and stress that it's not good enough to sell, and they waste all their time doing this when the reality situation is you should start selling something that's complete trash. You should sell the first shoe you can get your hands on and just either lose money on it or don't make money, don't profit at all until you can iterate. And so it's basically the whole idea behind Gall's law is that it makes iteration true and also the best option. And so instead of trying to create a perfect product on your first go and overthinking it and then never starting, you should start and iterate over time. And the only reason iteration works and is true is because of Gall's law, is because since every complex system comes from a simpler system, that is just the idea of iteration. You take a simple system and iterate upon it to make it more complex. And if Gall's law was not true, then iteration would not be a term that existed. Because if you didn't have a simple system and then iterate upon it to make it better, the word iteration would not exist. And so that's something to think about today is Gall's law. Every complex system comes invariably from a simpler system. If you want to make a huge shoe company, start by selling a simple shoe with a random company name, and then slowly iterate your way upwards. Don't instantly try and think of the perfect company name and create the perfect shoe before you start, because the perfect shoe comes from a series of really bad shoes that are slightly better than the last one, and the perfect company name comes from multiple failed companies. And so start today, now, with whatever you want to do and iterate. And that is how you get your perfect thing that you're trying to create. You don't get your perfect thing by doing research and giving it time and slowly trying to build it before you actually start selling it. You need to start now. So I'll see you tomorrow. Hope this provides some sort of value to you. I know I need to apply to my life, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.